Okay, so random car thoughts. I have a lot of these while I'm driving, so here we go. I was asked, do I call you when my water breaks? So yes, always call me when your water breaks. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is the beginning of labor. There's sometimes a misconception that your water has to break before labor starts. And part of this, I believe, is because in the hospital setting, they do that a lot as an induction method. They'll try to break the water to bring on active labor. And so it kind of trickles into the community at large from that. But in reality, your water doesn't have to break for labor to start. Your water doesn't have to break in labor. Sometimes babies are born in their bag of water and the water never breaks. So yes, call me if it breaks, obviously, but I don't use that as an induction method at home. If your water breaks before labor starts, sometimes that actually increases the risk of infection. So it's not necessarily something we do on purpose. It increases there's always a chance of cord prolapse. So call me so that we can just make sure baby's still doing well after the water breaks. And then during labor, your water can break at any point. Some people, it breaks early on. Some people, most people, I would say, it breaks closer to pushing. And part of the reason why I like to leave the water bag intact is because it creates a cushion, not only for the cord. So if there's water in the bag, the baby will be floating to a certain extent and relieve pressure on that cord, which can cause decels and put the baby in distress. Could cause an emergency. So I generally want the bag of water intact if possible, so I don't interfere with that. Another thing is when the baby is descending, that bag of water pushing through the cervix helps to stretch the cervix out and kind of help dilate the cervix. It also helps to stretch the pelvic floor muscles slowly over time, so that once the baby is ready to come down behind that bag, there's plenty of room. Often women will feel a lot of pressure, and they're not quite fully dilated, and that's usually from the bag of water protruding down into the space. And I just reassure them at that time, like, your bag of water is just stretching everything out. And they might say, oh, well, do we need to break the bag? Do we need to break the bag? No, we don't have to. Just leave it there. If this is how your body's processing, then that's what needs to happen. So usually, if the bag of water is still intact, closer to pushing, I usually expect that pretty soon after it breaks, the baby's head's going to pass through, and then we'll have a baby. And again, it's stretching the tissues out slowly, and that is one of the things that helps prevent tearing as well, when those tissues stretch slowly rather than all at once. So it really facilitates a natural labor. It facilitates quick recovery because your tissues are intact rather than being torn and having to be stitched up. And then babies that are born in their bag, culturally, that is considered a positive omen. So if a baby has an opportunity to be born in their bag of water, I would not want to be the one to cancel that blessing for them. So about once a year we have a baby born in caul, which means they're born in their bag. And I always tell the parents, it looks like your baby might be born in caul, so we're gonna let that happen. And then shortly after the entire baby is out, we break the bag so they can take their first breath. But yeah, so I don't like to remove that blessing from them and over their life. And it really makes me think about how many more babies would be born in caul if providers didn't artificially rupture the membranes. Like, if the providers, whether midwives, doctors, whoever, if they just allowed the bag to stay intact. And part of what that means is we have to change our perspective on induction of labor as well, because like I said, it's a pretty standard option for either getting labor to start or speeding it up. So it's used very routinely. And because I honor the body's natural processes and I honor culture as well, it doesn't even make sense for me to do that. And, there are some people who we know just from prior experience that that's all it takes to get their labor going. And then when patients bring that to me, we have a conversation about, well, why are we feeling the need or the urge to bring this process on? What's really behind that? And that creates like an opportunity to just deep dive into our thoughts on birth and the process, the natural process of it, and what our job and our role is, you know, in the midwifery and home birth setting. So that being said, I do not break water very often. I've only done it once, really, to be honest. And that's because the mom really was adamant that that's what she wanted done. And it really didn't have an impact on how things went from there. So really, I feel like it was unnecessary, but it was what the mom wanted. So again, do you call me when your water breaks? Yes, absolutely, call me when your water breaks. However, even if the water doesn't break and the baby's born in their bag of water, it's not a bad thing.